Good morning, traders. This is Barry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is 9 minutes till 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. It's Wednesday already, Wednesday, January 22nd. So, looking at the calendar for today, as mentioned in my title, we have a monthly VIX expiration roll, right? That's going off in a few minutes expiration, and then just the rolling of the next one. We got World Economic Forum meeting day 3, woohoo! And then we're gonna have minor news at 10. Not listed on my sheet, but just to be aware of, ECB President Lagarde is going to be on a open panel discussion of, like after the crisis, how do we make Europe better and stronger? That's going to be at 10:15. My guess is it'll last an hour. So, but you should, maybe check your local listings if you really care. But that has minor headline risk, more if you're playing other stuff, I would think. But there's a lot of sentiment between the central banks sometimes. Keep in mind, our next meeting is on the 29th, which will be next Wednesday, a week from today. And then, nothing is supposed to change. 99.5% probability that we're staying exactly where we are at this point in time when we hit next week. And the next meeting, even at the most optimistic of expectations that you'll have a rate cut right now is June 18th. But if you go out to a 75% probability or better, you're looking at September 17th will be it. And then, of course, we had Netflix after the bell last night. Some more stocks reporting this morning, and then, a couple tonight, a couple tomorrow morning. We are starting an earnings season, and we'll be hot and heavy next week. Keep in mind that, as pointed out in my write-up last night, the Dow and the Russell are now in overbought territory. So, uh, you know, we're still, increasing, going higher, but we'll have to watch when structure starts forming how serious it is for retracements. See if we get any, uh, movement. So this is where you really have to start paying attention to topping formations and poor structure coming from the highs, and maybe be a little bit less eager to participate in blind longs as we go down, because that's when you can get the flush. Keep in mind, I point this out all the time, you can stay overbought for a long period of time. This is no reason of in and of itself to short an index. Um, so as we look back at yesterday's action, basically we, were screwing around with 525. We closed around 526 uh, on the indexes. For the cash market, right, we had got up to 60.50 in the cash, and we're a little bit over 600 on the SPY. We've repaired some poor structure, and then as we look at what that did, we had the salmon run trades go off, and the Nasdaq, the ES, and the Dow. That means that it's on the bulls, right, to keep pushing it up higher, which they did in the overnight session, and that is because we have 30,389 calls that expire today on the Qs at 530, which is basically right where we are right now. We're at 529.86, so we just rolled up here. The reason that you get these moves overnight is because these options do not trade except for between the bells. They actually stop trading at 4:15, so 15 minutes after the closing bell, but they start trading at the opening bell. So the market makers were able to move it to there in the overnight session, right? That's what happened. So we're here now. So where do we go from here? We'll just have to see what we get. Again, I've pointed this out a couple times. Standard operating procedure would be that you go anywhere between 40 and 100 points up. You consolidate, for the morning or whatever, and then if you start falling below here, there's two possible scenarios, right? You get, you go down a little bit, and then you get reversion to the mean, maybe stay just under it slightly and just close near it. But the other scenario is, because we have the VIX roll today, that once you get under it, right, if the VIX starts rising, you can accelerate and you can start aggressively one time framing down on even of the smallest of time frames, and you can just go into a diver down scenario where you're between the -1 and the -2 standard deviations, and you just close on the lows and you take out the previous day's low. So you know, under this level with a rising VIX, I'm not buying anything on a retracement until I see some structure form. So just like at the top, you don't want to short anything until you see some structure form. uh, when you start selling below something like this, you don't want to buy, you don't want to do any blind buys, is my advice. If you do, you better have a bracket on there and just, that's it. You take it, you don't move it, you don't screw with it, and maybe one and done. If you had a great day, you think you can do it, maybe two and done, but it's not, if the VIX is rising, my advice is don't do it. So as we look at where we are, we have broken out of the top of the bull flag as mentioned, right? We've been one time framing higher. Yesterday's, and look at these points of control, right? We skipped over last week this 59.50, and then we had a 2-day balance. Uh, right around just under 6,000 on the futures, and then you know we've been still remaining in the one time frame. Now we are gapping over the point of control from December 26th, that is at 6,100. So we'll see if we get a check back of that during the session or not. And then we have two untested points of control above at 6136 and 6153.50. So those would be, the magnets. We are on an impulse move higher right now on the ES and out of balance, right? And remember, we had this 3-week consolidation on this specific contract, ESH25. It probably does not look like this if you look at the continuous, but remember, we are actually trading H25 right now. So we were basically in a 40, 50 point range for 3 weeks before we had our liquidation break on Fed Day on December 18th. Right now we're coming back up here. Remember, next week is the Fed Day again. So 61.65 is basically around the top of that balance area, and 61.78.75 is the all-time high for this contract. Now looking at the NASDAQ the same way. The NASDAQ is now on a look above 21,896.75, and it's going to either be a look and go or a look and fail, right? So we will find out today. So overnight action for the ES, 32 points. The movement has been in the NASDAQ, right? Up 221 points. And again, it's because, we are right at the QQQ 530 as I speak, basically. We're 10 cents under it. So this is where that marker is. So throw a marker, and then minus, I'll have it on the equity profiles on the lower part of the 8 grid. I'll update where those levels are as far as my guesstimate. And keep in mind, once the session opens on the top of the 8 grid, there's the ETF and the cash real-time markers up in these boxes on each of those. So as we, and I'll show you real quick just so you can remember, but these are the real-time levels. Obviously, the cash market's not open until after the bell, but you got the ETF and then cash, ETF and then cash, ETF, cash. I've got them up there for each of the, the NASDAQ, the ES, and the Dow. So as we look at what's happening, you got a couple markers for the ES, right? You got these signal prints that we'll see if the lower part can now be support. That's going to come in at 6107 half. Remember, 6100 basically is an untested point of control below that we are skipping over, and 6118 half on the upper side of this. So we'll see if that holds. The next split I have is at 61.37 basically. Uh, that is a bogey line. And then for the NASDAQ, other profile markers are this basically 21,900. It's actually 897 quarter is where I marked it, but it's close enough for government work. And then right around 4A, you've got, I don't think the VIX would really have to be dropping and we would have to be smoking up, right? We'd have to get up to 535 for this to basically trade tonight, 537 maybe even to get up into here. So you're looking at 22,134 and 22,211 is where those are. I don't really think that's on the table for today, um, but we will find out. And then there's just a huge block here that the Russell could start, eating into a little bit today. I don't think it can get to the top of this box. I would be totally shocked, especially since we are overbought right now in the Dow and the Russell. I don't, it could probably get a third, maybe half of the box back today at the most, but I would expect, some sellers to be up there and at least get a quick test of the bottom of the box and maybe back into value. We'll just have to see. I don't really play that. I just observe. And keep in mind, when all of the indexes are acting exactly the same, right? It's easier to make money. Notice in the overnight session, the three amigos here, the Russell is odd man out. It is not acting like the other indexes. So we'll keep that in mind. So watch the I can't iterate this enough. When you got 30,000 call contracts on the queues for today on a position that expiring, we're opening right on it. That's going to be your bogey, and we're probably going to get a lot of chop around here. Uh, normally you would see, at least a quick test lower, but I don't know if you can get more than 60 points under where we are right now, so that you're looking at about, 21,870, 850 at the most, probably on the way down. That's not even going to get you down to, it's going to split basically the overnight action. It's going to be the halfway back for the overnight action. So we'll see if that holds. I'm being curious to see what Jack's watching today. I'll try to narrate later on today about my thoughts on this strike and where the VIX is going. But I've gave you my outline for how some scenarios with that today, and keep in mind that my thoughts are there's probably a 60% possibility that if we lose that this afternoon, that we take out yesterday's low. So if we consolidate up here this morning, and then we start dropping down, you're going to go through a bunch of milestones, but there's probably a 60% chance that you take out yesterday's low if that does not hold in the afternoon. And we'll see how it goes. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.